Hey everybody, it's your girl Urban Farm Sister.
Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'll give everyone a few seconds to log in. As I know there's a slight delay, uh, especially on YouTube. So I hope everyone's doing well this evening. Thank you all for tuning in. So tonight we're going to talk about brood 10 and what's a brood and all of that. We're going to talk about cicadas. Um, yeah, cicadas are coming out this year in multiple states. Their emergence is going to probably number into the billions. They're going to be coming. We'll have a map, and you'll see what states they're going to show up in. They're not going to be throughout those states that they're showing up in. There will be pockets of them, but some states will get more cicadas than others. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about dispelling some myths and things like that. So thank you guys for tuning in. Screen here. All right. Before I get started, though, I want to introduce myself because there's some people that do not know me. This will be the first time they've ever tuned in to any of my lives and things. But my name is Nadia Ruffin. I'm located in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm an entomologist, a scientist, a farmer, a researcher, educator, and I am a retired disease investigator. I have 2 degrees. I have a bachelor's of science in agriculture from the Ohio State University. Also have a master's of science in entomology from the University of Nebraska. I'm owner of Kiwi Produce and founder of AgriCademy Inc. And I'm also co-owner of AgriCademy Labs LLC. I have years of experience in floriculture. My family owns a flower shop here called Blossoms Florist. They've owned that for over 40 years. I have a background in veterinary medical research. Before I really got into the whole farming aspect of things, I used to do research. I used to work in labs. I was actually interested in becoming a veterinarian, but things happened and I wasn't able to apply to vet school and things. But I went into research and I learned about research. And then I also worked in public health as a disease investigator. Um, there, I would do disease investigations similar to the ones that you see going on now for COVID-19. I would do that for the other reportable diseases that are out there, things like flu, salmonella, E. coli, all types of diseases. What I would do is I would contact individuals that we got positive labs for. I figure out where they were exposed, make sure they were getting medication and treatment, and also making sure they were not spreading diseases throughout Hamilton County. But I retired from that position, and now I do. I'm an independent researcher. I do a lot of agricultural, but especially entomological research, and I'll tell you what an entomologist is in a second. And then I do when we actually our organization we teach socially disadvantaged farmers, particularly Black farmers, people that are interested in farming, how to farm, and things like that, especially in urban and small scale farming environments. So I'd like to thank everyone that supports my channel. I'd like to thank all my contributors in the past. If you'd like to become a contributor, you can do so by sending donations and things to NadiaRuffin@gmail.com. If you want to use PayPal, you can use Cash App at @Nadia Ruffin, or you can become a Patreon, a $5 patron. You can go to patreon.com/Urban Farm Sister, and you can become a patron on there and do a $5 contribution for each month. All right. Also support AgriCademy Inc., the nonprofit. We have a number of different activities and projects and programs going on right now. You can visit our website and find out what we have going on. One of those is the Black Empowerment to Agricultural Small Scale Farming Introduction course. We had recently finished our first cohort. Our next cohort is slated to start on September 20th, 2021. We've done some changing around of the actual course. It's going to be part online. There's going to be some hands-on activities as well. So it's going to run for 12 weeks. To be considered for it, you must be at least 10 years of age. You must identify as Black or African American. A preference will be given to those that live in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. If you do not live in those states, you can still fill out the application. But there are going to be some classes that take place in person that you would want to, participate in. And if you're not local to the area or local to the state, it might be hard for you to participate in those activities. If you'd like to sign up to be considered for the September 20th cohort, you can do so by going to www.agriacademyinc.org/beta. And the application is on there, and we'll pick the individuals that are going to enroll come August. All right, so let's get started with our presentation this evening. First, I want to talk about what entomology is. Entomology is the study of insects, their relatives, and other invertebrates. So some other invertebrates would be things like worms, spiders, ticks, centipedes, millipedes, mollusks like snails and slugs. All these things get thrown into entomology, but entomology itself is actually the study of insects. But a lot of times you find these things amongst the insects, and so we teach about them. Entomologists teach about all of them because they're all in the same environment. So I'm an entomologist, and I'm of course a scientist. So I educate people about insects, and I also do research, study them. So that's why I decided to do this presentation about cicadas, because there's a lot of myths and lies and things that are told about these insects. And so I thought I would come on here and educate about them, and also hopefully help someone overcome their fears. There's a lot of fear for these things for no reason. They're not aggressive, they don't sting, they don't bite, don't do anything, but there's been so many lies told about them that people like literally are saying they're not going to leave their house all summer because of these things going to emerge in a few weeks actually. And we'll talk about what they emerge, what are the conditions they need to emerge and things like that. So the cicadas are coming. The periodical cicada brood 10 will emerge in May of 2021. So you'll probably start seeing some of the evidence of them emerging now. And we'll talk about what that is and what that looks like. But they're going to emerge when ground temperatures at least reach 64 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's when you're going to see the big emergence. So these are all the states that brood 10 cover. These are where you're going to find cicadas emerging. So I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're slated to get a huge emergence here. But you have places like Michigan, Indiana, Illinois. They won't get the entire state like of Michigan. There'll be certain parts of Michigan, especially those parts that touch Ohio and Indiana. There'll be a few emergencies in Illinois, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, D.C., Delaware, New Jersey, and New York. So they are coming, and they're coming in huge numbers. Actually, their numbers have reduced, and we'll talk about that a little bit later too, but they're still coming in the billions. It's not going to be the same as emergence that may have been 30-something years ago, but it's still going to be a large number of them that emerge. So what exactly are periodical cicadas? So let's start with a little scientific classification. I'm a scientist, and this is how we go about classifying things in, by species and genus and things like that. So they're arthropods. That means, they don't have backbones and things like that. They're in class Insecta, which they makes them insects. They're from the order Hemiptera, so they belong to the order called true bugs. True bugs would be things like bed bugs, leaf hoppers, aphids, stink bugs, anything that is actually a bug and falls under Hemiptera, they are going to be related to that. And I'll explain why they're related to them in a minute. It has to do with the mouth parts and body structures and things like that. They're from the family Cicadidae. Their genus is called Cicada. Um, and they are the species. There's a number of different species, and we'll talk about those right now. Um, there are a total of 7 species of periodical cicadas. They can be divided into 2 categories. There's 13-year cicadas, and then there's 17-year cicadas. Depending on the species, it takes this long for them to complete their life cycle. Each species has a distinct mating call. So when you hear the cicadas come out in this month, and when they actually emerge from their uh, they pupate and they emerge as adults, when you start hearing those calls, you'll hear distinct ones. They're not all the same, and each species has their own distinct call that attracts their females. Um, the 17-year periodical cicadas are distributed across the eastern, upper, midwestern, and Great Plains states within the U.S. The 13-year cicadas occur in the southern and Mississippi Valley states. There is a slight overlap of the two in some regions. So these are the 7 different types of cicadas, and they have them broke down. I don't really want you guys to memorize it. You probably can't really see it anyway. But I just want you to know that there's more than one type of cicada out there. There's multiple different species that will emerge, and so you're going to hear different calls and things if you're aware of what's going on. So types of periodical cicadas. So when they emerge, they're called broods. The periodical cicadas emerge in groups called broods during their 13 or 17 years life cycles in distinct regions. There were supposedly 30 broods at one point in time. In 1898, an entomologist by the name of C.L. Marlott assigned Roman numerals to 30 different broods of periodical cicadas. 17 distinct broods with a 17-year life cycle to which he assigned brood numbers 1 through 17, which emerging years of 1893 to 1903. And then there was plus 13 broods with a 13-year life cycle, which he assigned the brood numbers 18 to 30. And these were found during 1893 to 1905. Today, scientists, they only know of 15 known broods that still exist. That doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that there actually were 30 broods. They have these things that happen where certain broods, they'll have early emergence, like they'll come a year earlier. And so it may have been that someone was seeing some overlap of a brood that, all of them didn't emerge that one year they were supposed to, or they came a few years early. And so that could have been why they had 30 instead of the 15. But there are 15 that exist now, and these go by their respected schedules, either 13 or 17 years. All right, before I go on, I see there's some comments here. Hey Chandler Glover, how are you? Hey Shanika. Shanika says, I wonder why they emerge in Ohio and Tennessee, but not Kentucky. Kentucky, it has a different brood that'll emerge at a different point in time. That's why you're not going to see any in Kentucky, but you may still see some over, the northern part of Kentucky, like Covington and things. But you also got to remember that river is there, and that kind of keeps things from flying over and making it over to our side of the river. But Kentucky does have their own broods that emerge, and I think they actually have a 13-year cicada. Sophia L. Bug said, thank you for all that you do. I hope to connect with you in the near future. I hope so too. Thank you for tuning in this evening. All right. So any questions up until this point before I continue on? Now I'm going to talk about what actually triggers their emergence. So basically, they will start to emerge typically beginning in mid-May. So that's why I waited to do this presentation now, because they're going to be coming mid-May, maybe end of May. Depends on the ground temperatures. What they'll do is they'll wait until the soil 8 inches beneath the ground reaches at least 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Insects, they can only their bodies only respond by certain temperatures, so they'll know when that correct temperature has been reached so that they can emerge and carry out their life processes and things like that. A nice warm rain will often trigger an emergence. It will soften soil and it'll allow them to actually crawl out. We had an emergence back in 2017. It was brood, I believe it was brood 10, but they were early. But there were certain areas here in Cincinnati that got a lot, and then there were some areas that didn't get any at all. But they came out. It came out, and it wasn't nothing like we're going to see this year. But they did come out in pretty high numbers. But it was exactly around mid-May that they emerged when the temperatures kind of regulated and the ground temperatures got warm. And then we had some rain, and then they just came out in huge numbers. All right, so we're going to talk about the anatomy and physiology of periodical cicadas. All right, so again, they are insects. They have two pairs of see-through membranous wings. So you can see that here on the cicada on the top picture on the left. They have black heads, thorax, and abdomen. So this is their head. My little arrows don't show up on here. Whoops. So they have black head, black body. Their legs are kind of like an orangish, reddish color. They have 6 legs. All insects have 6 legs. They have red, orange looking compound eyes. So their eyes are at the top of their heads right here. On this picture on the bottom left, you can really see their eyes there. They have a pair of antennae, and their size ranges from 0.75 to 2.25 inches, and that depends on which species is that you're actually handling or that you're actually seeing. Like I told you again, there will be a number of different species emerging at this point in time. It won't just be one particular species. They have piercing, sucking mouth parts. And so on this bottom picture on the left, you'll see what looks like right between the legs is this pointy thing. And I have a better picture that'll show it. But that is their mouth part. So they do not have chewing mouth parts. So when people tell you they got bit by a cicada, they are lying. They do not even have chewing mouth parts. They are unable to actually bite anyone because they do not have chewing mouth parts. All right, so cicadas do not have chewing mouth parts. They cannot bite or chew on vegetation. They feed on plant sap, so they're herbivores. In particular, they feed on tree sap. So I know a lot of people were talking about they were afraid that they had their gardens started and now these cicadas are coming out and they're going to destroy crops. That is false. They do not feed on crops. They feed on trees. Even their nymphs, when they're underground for those numbers of years, they feed on tree roots. They feed on the sap from trees. They are strictly tree feeders. They have piercing, sucking mouth parts. So again, this picture at the top, and right in the middle, you'll see this black pointy structure. That's their mouth parts right there. On the picture on the bottom, this is what their whole mouth structure looks like. So you have the clipus, you have the labrum, and you have the labium. The labium is the part that sticks down into the tree, and that's how they suck the sap. So all hemipterans, all insects that are true bugs that fall into this order of true bugs, they all have this same mouth part. So an aphid has piercing, sucking mouth parts. Bed bugs have piercing, sucking mouth parts. What's another bug? What do you call it? Stink bugs have piercing, sucking mouth parts. So they're all going to have these mouth parts where they stick their mouth parts into whatever they're going to feed it. And they're going to suck something out of there. Now, things like kissing bugs and bed bugs, they feed on blood. So they're going to use their piercing, sucking mouth parts to, stick it down into whatever their host is, whether it's an animal, human, things like that. And they're going to suck blood out with those piercing, sucking mouth parts. But all their mouth parts are like this. They are incapable of actually chewing or biting. Things like assassin bugs that feed on other insects, they have the same piercing, sucking mouth parts, but they use theirs as a weapon if they feel threatened. So if you ever come across a assassin bug, just leave it alone. It's beneficial to have those outdoors, but they will poke you. What they call their mouth parts like a beak, and they will poke you, and it's like getting stuck by a needle. So how do you tell a male or female cicada apart? What the females have what is called an ovipositor. So the ovipositor, and that arrow is not pointing in the right spot, but it's that part down the middle, and that's what she uses to actually lay eggs into tree limbs when it's time for her to lay eggs after she's mated. The males do not have ovipositors. The male is on the right, so you can see the difference in structures. Sometimes males are slightly larger than females. In this picture, we have two different species going on, but no matter the species, they're going to look very similar. The females are going to have that ovipositor, and then the males are not going to have the ovipositor, and the males are the only ones that make sound. And so we're going to talk about that now. So only males make sounds. Males make sounds for two reasons: to attract mates and for the protection from predators. The males have these sound-producing organs on the side of their abdomens called tymbals. When the tymbals muscle is pulled inward, it bends and distorts the membrane and creates this clicking sound you hear them make. So they don't make sounds like a cricket, where they crickets rub their legs and things together. No, they actually have these structures underneath their wings, and you can see the arrow pointing to the tymbal, and they have muscles that will contract and pull that inward, and it'll, when they release, it's kind of like a rubber band. It creates these clicking sounds, and that's the sound that you hear from the males. Again, females do not have those structures. They do not make sound. Males only make those sounds to attract females and to protect groups of cicadas that are in the area from birds. Birds don't like when they make that noise. It'll scare them away temporarily. Eventually, the birds realize that they're not a threat, and then they start feeding on them. But they produce that sound to protect populations of cicadas in the area. So Bridget Jones Smith said, "Thank you for this information." You're welcome, Bridget. And Frank Williams said, "What's up, Nadia? Do you plan to discuss already? Have a video on ants and how to get rid of them in your home?" I've done a few posts about ants on Instagram. I can do a video about them. It depends on what type of ants and things that you have. So if you could send me some pictures and things and where they are, I could do a better analysis on what and how to control them. All right. So cicadas undergo what is called incomplete metamorphosis. So that means they go through an egg stage, the nymphal stage. That's the part that you see, that you don't see. It's the nymphal stage, that they're underground for either 13 or 17 years, depending on which species of cicada is present. And then after they emerge from that last, from their exoskeleton, when they emerge as those adults, then that's the last final stage, and then they do not, shed skin and things like that after that point. All right, so their life cycle: adult males and females, once they emerge and the males start calling, the males and females will mate. The females will make slits in branches using her ovipositor and lay her eggs there. The eggs hatch and the nymphs make their way down to the ground. The nymphs will dig itself into the dirt until it finds a root. This could be up to 4 to 6 feet deep into the ground. It takes 13 to 17 years, depending on the species, feeding off the roots of trees, shrubs, and grasses for them to develop. Cicadas will undergo 5 nymphal instars. That means they will shed their skin underground 4 times, and then when they emerge as that 5th instar, they'll shed their skin one more time, and then that's when the adult will emerge. So here we have some eggs that are in the slit on the left of a tree that the female made, and then on the right you have a picture of a female. She's doing 2 things. She's laying her eggs. Her ovipositor is stuck inside of the tree, and she's laying eggs in a slit that she made, and then she's also feeding on the tree as well. So again, I'm going to tell you again that they do not feed on your garden plants. They're only going to feed on trees. Only trees you should be concerned about if you have like new saplings and things. You might want to cover those with insect netting to prevent females from ovipositing in them, because if there's a lot of females that come and land on that sapling, and she tries to lay her eggs in those new branches and things that had just developed on that sapling, it could be too much for the tree to overcome. Older trees, they might lose a few limbs or something, but most likely they will recover, especially trees that are really old. They've dealt with these for, many years. Especially trees that are hundreds, 200 years old or older, they are pretty much used to just emergence and things like that. So they'll be fine. It's the trees that you need to worry about are the saplings. All right, so some signs nymphs are about to emerge. You'll see chimneys that they call turrets, and then you'll also see holes in the ground. So again, once ground temperatures heat up to about 64 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll start seeing these turrets. You might even see these now. There's been some people reporting them already here in Cincinnati, in different neighborhoods, saying that they're seeing the picture on the left, top left. But you'll start seeing holes in the ground where they'll start to emerge, and then sometimes you might even see them actually coming out of the holes, especially come mid-May, end of May, early June. You're going to see a lot of them coming out at once. So the fifth instar nymph will crawl up trees or blades of grass and start to molt, which means they will shed their exoskeleton to emerge as adults. The newly emerged adult is called an imago. It's called this before it completely matures. They come out. The imagos are creamy white color. And their wings are shriveled up and things. So what they must do, they usually emerge at night, because what happens is, if they emerge during the day, they'll be predators for a number of different prey, because that white insect, stands out, especially up against a tree. So what happens is they'll wait until night to all emerge, and they have the cover of night protecting them. So they'll sit on a tree. On the right hand side, we have a newly emerged imago. The wings are still shriveled up, but what'll happen is, I have a picture that I took of. I have to have video of this whole thing happening. But on the left hand side, what happens is they will pump their blood. It's called hemolymph into their wings, and it'll expand the wings, and then they'll harden it, and they'll darken, they'll change colors, and then you'll get that black cicada. Um, that can take about, for them to pump their wings, it takes about a half an hour for the color change. It can take a few hours, so that's why they wait till night to do it. Um, Adults, so once they emerge and they change and all that, they will mate and things. And adults will only live for only a few weeks. Most of their life is underground as that nymphal stage. The adult stage only for a few weeks. So by mid-July, early August, all the adults will be gone. The eggs that were laid will hatch in about 6 to 8 weeks after they have been laid, and the life cycle starts all over again, with the nymphs dropping into the soil, burrowing down in the ground, and living there for 13 or 17 years, depending on what particular species of periodical cicada is present. So Regina Pollard said, "Hi, Aunt Regina, how are you?" Um, Hi Nadia, will there be there? We will be there in 2 weeks. My visit is the 15th to 20th of May. Do they see well? Is this why they land on humans? Um, they actually see very well, but they're clumsy. And that's why they usually land on people. They're not trying to land on you. Usually, what happens, you're in their path, and they can't really change directions very well. And so they'll just crash into you. And we'll talk about that in a second when we do this little trivia game. But I want to talk about cicada population. There was a study that was done, um, and the effects that deforestation has had on cicada populations. Indiana University has researched the effects of cutting forests down, and how that has an effect on cicada populations. They compared data taken from 1902 to 1987 to 88. The population of cicadas in the north has decreased by large numbers due to cutting trees down. Also, urban sprawl, taking away soil, replacing it with concrete, eliminates nymph habitats. Cicada populations are declining, and some broods are now extinct. And that is due to human activity. You know, setting up urban areas, when you go in and you put in all that concrete, a lot of times, a lot of those cicadas got trapped underneath that concrete. I mean, there's still soil there underneath the concrete, but they can't emerge out of that. So a lot of those will never emerge because of, new development. Also, taking away the trees. If there's nowhere for the females to lay her eggs, she's not going to lay the eggs just in the ground. They distinctively know to only lay their eggs in trees, and if there's no trees available, they can't lay their eggs. So, humans have contributed to their population decrease. I hope that, 100, 200 years from now that they still exist, because there's something that we can really learn from. They've been here longer probably than humans have, emerging and things like that. And, us coming in and doing all the urban sprawling thing has really affected their populations. So, Black Heritage Moment, we're talking about Benjamin Banneker. He was an African American scientist, surveyor, mathematician, astronomer, farmer, and naturalist. Benjamin Banneker actually recorded that his first experience with the cicada was in 1749 when he was 17 years old. He actually followed brood 10 throughout his life. He experienced their emergence a few more times every 17 years. He began to predict when they would emerge based off prime numbers 13 and 17. He was one of the first scientists to record the insect's life cycle. So at the top picture, this was actually a writing of his in one of his journals where he was talking about the cicadas. And I'll put this on my on the school website. This is a link that you can actually pull this up and read it. But yeah, he actually was he contributed to studying these insects. He wasn't the only scientist, but he was one of the ones that actually, kept records and things. I think he followed before he passed away. I think he would experience at least 3 emergencies. And so, his information was very helpful as it pertains to this particular brood. I'm pretty sure he probably experienced other broods as well. Um, as a lot of his writing, he called them locusts, and we'll talk about that in a second because they're not locusts. But that's what people envision them being locusts because they come out in large numbers, but locusts are actually grasshoppers. Let's see here. So Shanika Bedford says, seems like they learn our habitats and start avoiding running into us the longer they are out. Um, Yeah, so what happens is they once they make their way up in the trees, and they usually pick, really tall trees, you don't even really encounter them anymore. They'll make their way up in the trees, they'll lay their eggs in those limbs, they'll stay up there, they'll feed and things, and then eventually they'll just all die off. The usually when we encounter them is if they're on lower level trees, or when they're first emerging and they're becoming the adults. They have to teach their wings and things how to flap and all of that. And so that's a lot of times when we experience them, uh, they might run into us and things like that. But once they get up into those trees, we don't really even encounter them anymore. What'll happen is you'll just see a lot of dead cicadas, and of course you'll see their exoskeletons on the ground and things. Keith Spears said, "Are there known benefits of cicadas within our environment?" Well, they actually serve as food sources for a lot of animals when they emerge. Um, I mean, they probably help with aeration of the soil and things. When you have billions of these insects in the soil, I can imagine that helping as well as them producing waste and things underground. Um, Again, they feed on tree roots, but they don't cause any major damage that'll kill a tree, especially the adults. But most of the time, they're prey for a lot of different animals, birds, insectivores, mammals, and things. Even humans will eat them, so they serve as a food source. All right, so we're gonna play a little game called Cicada Trivia. True or false? First question: true or false? Cicadas bite and sting. Is that true or false? Cicadas bite and sting. No one? So Keith Spears says false. LS Lynn Business says no. Info says false. The answer is false. Cicadas have piercing sucking mouthparts they use to suck sap from trees. They do not have teeth, so they are not capable of a bite. Cicadas also do not have stingers. Females have ovipositors, but the ovipositors are only used to lay eggs inside of tree limbs. What's going on? It's not changing. Okay. True or false? Cicadas are locusts here to destroy all of our vegetation. And I just kind of gave y'all that answer like a second ago. So are they locusts? Chloe says false. LS Business says false. Yes, that's correct. False. Again, they have piercing, sucking mouthparts, so they do not feed on vegetation. Cicadas are also not locusts. Locusts are short-horned grasshoppers in the family Acrididae. They will swarm in large numbers when their resources become depleted. Locusts have chewing mouthparts and will devour vegetation while they swarm. So at the top, we have a picture of a locust. Locusts are grasshoppers. What happens is, like I say, when their resources are depleted, they will undergo this whole physiological change. They'll go from that brown color that you see at the top to like this reddish, orangish, black color, and then they will develop those wings, and then they will fly in huge numbers, and they'll just eat all vegetation that they come into contact with. Um, Cicadas, again, they have piercing, sucking mouth parts. They do not eat vegetation, and they only emerge, these particular cicadas only emerge every 13 to 17 years. Now, there are some annual cicadas that come out every year. They're actually, a lot of those green, and there's other type of cicadas as well, and they're different colors and things, but they don't have that same 13, 17-year life cycle. They don't emerge in huge numbers like these do when they do come out. All right, true or false? Cicadas carry diseases. Is that true or false? So Shanika said false. Info said false. That's correct. The answer is false. Cicadas do not transmit any diseases. All right, true or false? Cicadas are blind. So yeah, people say they run into them and they can't see. Is that true or false? So Keith said false. Info said true. LS Lynn Business said false. The correct answer is false. Cicadas can see quite well. That's why when you approach them, they fly away. They also sense vibrations. So yes, they can see. They can see very well. Like I showed you a picture of their eyes. They have these huge compound eyes. They can see predators and things like that. Um, they can see birds. That's why the males will make those calls. But they also can sense vibrations and things. They have antenna. They have sensory organs in their feet and things like that. So they can sense vibrations as well. But they can see also. True or false? Cicadas hibernate or sleep underground for 13 to 17 years. So Valerie says false. Keith Spears says true. The answer is false. They are actually very active underground. All those years, the nymphs can burrow deep underground, feet deep, and feed on tree roots and other plant roots. They also molt and undergo 5 nymphal instars. So they're not just sleeping underground. They actually are very active. We just don't ever see them because they're underground. True or false? Cicadas are attracted to lawn mowers. So Chloe said true. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? LS Lynn Business says false. Keith Spears says false. The answer is true. Cicadas can be attracted to lawnmowers because they pick up on the vibrations that mimic the male's song. So you could indeed have some flying towards you while cutting grass or using other motorized tools outdoors. So just be mindful that if you're cutting grass, that you might have some actually fly towards you because they're thinking you're a male. True or false? All cicadas live in 13 or 17-year life cycles. So we have some pictures of some other cicadas here from around the world. You know, they can be quite, they can have these intricate designs on there. They can be very pretty and bright colored and things like that. So Chloe said true. Info said false. Keith Spears said true. The answer is false. Only periodical cicadas have this life cycle. There are thousands of other cicadas found around the world. Most other cicadas have annual life cycles. So, like I told you guys earlier, there's different types of cicadas. They're not just periodical. We're just lucky here in the United States to experience the periodical cicadas, but around the world and here, even in the United States, there are other species of cicadas that do not carry out that same 13 or 17-year life cycle. True or false? People can eat cicadas. Chloe B said false. Info said true. So the answer is true. Cicadas are prey to numerous predators, including humans. Humans throughout the history of periodical cicadas have feasted on them. If you're going to consume them, just make sure you remove the wings and the legs. The wings and the legs can be tough, and they do not digest very well, so they can cause gastrointestinal upset. But if you remove the wings and the legs and just eat the body with the head and things, you should be all right. And people again around the world, because these aren't the only cicadas that exist. There's many cultures around the world that they consume cicadas. They'll eat the nymphal stages, and as well as the adults. True or false? My pet can get sick eating cicadas. Is that true or false? Info says false. Shanika says true. The answer is true. Dogs and cats can eat cicadas, although they may try to gorge themselves on cicadas. Again, the wings and the legs may cause digestive upset. So it's going to be kind of hard if you have a pet that goes out there and just starts gorging on them. They may come in and vomit, or it could cause digestive upset, cause diarrhea, and things like that. So just be mindful of that, especially if you're in a region that's going to experience, a huge emergence. Um, just be mindful that when you let your pets outdoors, that they may be gorging on cicadas and they may come in and vomit them back up, or they may experience diarrhea. The cicadas themselves are not toxic, but again, it's those wings and those legs that they just did not digest very well. And again, cicadas are prey for many animals. So you'll see the birds, you'll see all kind of animals chasing them and feeding on them and things like that. True or false? There are repellents and insecticides that keep cicadas away. So can you go to the store and buy some repellent or some insecticide to keep them from clumsily flying into you? Keith says false. LN Business says false. Shanika says false. That is correct. The answer is false. Cicadas are clumsy flyers that may accidentally land on you, but there are no repellents that will prevent this. They are harmless. They do not bite or sting. So if they land on you, you're gonna live. They're not gonna do anything to you. Just simply remove them. If you don't want to touch them, find someone that will remove it from you. But there's no spray. So if somebody's marketing a spray or repellent or an insecticide to kill them, that's totally unnecessary, and it is not going to work either. There's no off or anything stuff they use like for mosquitoes and things like that. There's nothing that's going to repel a clumsy cicada. And you don't need insecticides to go out and kill them. They're not going to do anything. And that's also not good for the environment to be spraying insecticides outdoors just to kill something that you don't understand. So just be mindful of that. If somebody's marketing that, it's false. Do not buy into that. Um, show me if somebody is, because I will definitely do a post about it and tell people not to partake in that. But I know because of the fear that these things produce that is unwarranted, people will go out and out of their way to make products that to get people to buy into it and make a quick $1 million for something that's not going to be effective and is not necessary. So Info said I can barely wait for my children to experience them. Yes. So this is gonna be my son's first big, huge emergence. He saw the small one that we had back in 2017. I think this is like my fourth one. I can't remember. I think Ohio has an overlap of a 13-year one as well. Um, and so I've seen a few times. Chloe said there are, but it may not be a benefit. Yeah, there are no repellents at all. And anything somebody's selling, yeah, that's not going to be a benefit for you or the environment. Okay, so that's the end of the little quiz. If you guys have any questions or anything, you can ask them now. Um, you can always go to agricademyinc.org/courses. You can visit our school website. We offer courses on there, classes. You can find out information used in these live discussions. I will put a copy of my cicada article that I had wrote a few years ago. If you guys want to read that, it was in the Dirt magazine, and it's all about period I had here in this presentation, you will find it in that actual article. So did anybody have any questions? So Shanika Bedford said this was kind of fun. Thank you. You're welcome, Shanika. And Mirasal said, good evening. Good evening. How are you? Thank you for tuning in. So what state is everyone in? So I have some preserved specimens here of some cicadas that came out in 2017. Can anybody tell me, is this a male or a female? Anybody tell me what this is? So Keith Spears said female. Nope, this is actually a male. Let's see if I can find a female to show you guys the ovipositor. So this one is a female. So she has this ovipositor. If I can get the camera to focus. Okay. So she has this ovipositor right here. That's what she uses to lay the eggs inside of the tree lambs. The male, focus camera, focus. Try to put them together. Okay, focus on them. Get it to focus. The males do not have that ovipositor. I can't get it to focus. And so that's a female, and this is the male. They do not have that ovipositor. I had the wrong one up. So this is an exoskeleton. So this is what one of them had. This was the last shedding. This is the skin that's left over that you'll find on the tree. So you're gonna see a lot of these on the trees. So LS Business asks, how big will they get? It depends on what species is present. They can get up to 2.25 inches long. But there's different species and they're different sizes. But this was the ones that emerged. Some of the ones that I found back in 2017. So there's definitely two different species here. This is another male, but they're not huge. But they're not also small. They're not small like say like a housefly or something. They're pretty decent sized insects. And then the males, like I said, they're the ones that make all the noise. I can't lift the wings up though, because since these are preserved, they'll just break. I was going to show you guys what the timbal was on there. But yeah, we have, like I said, there's different species here. This is another female. You can see the design on her abdomen. It's different from the other female. The other female was like all black on her abdomen. So this is the abdomen, this area right here where her ovipositor is. So info asks, how young do you accept children? I have an entomology club that I'm updating. I would recommend that the child be at least 7 years old so they understand what they're reading and stuff. Keith Spears said, "Thank you. Looking forward to the next lesson, and hopefully I'll be able to enroll some of my young men at my church to learn more. I'm from Missouri, and I hope to connect when I visit my hope city of Akron, Ohio." Cool. LS Lynn Business said, 17 years ago was thousands, right? This time, billions or millions. 17 years ago would have been millions and billions. Then also, um, it depends on where you were. Some, like I say, some areas are not going to get as many as others. Depends on where you're geographically located. There are certain things like mountains, rivers, lakes, and things that will cut down on populations. Again, if you also have urban sprawl in your area where they taken over forest land and things, and there's no soil available, the emergence is going to be a lot smaller than what it was because the trees are destroyed. The soil that they live in is probably covered up with concrete, so they can't emerge out of there and things like that. I'm not sure about Cincinnati. All the area, pretty much the map shows Cincinnati's going to be, pretty much covered with them. And I remember back 17 years ago, it was pretty widespread. It wasn't like 4 years ago, 2017. They were mainly up in like North College Hill area, and then there were some in like I think Claremont County and those counties. But pretty much it's going to be countywide when they emerge. All right, any other questions? All right, if you do have any other questions, you can send me an email at urbanfarmsister@gmail.com. Um, or you can find me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram under Urban Farm Sister. And you can follow me on those. Make sure you follow me on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel so you'll know when I have new videos uploaded and things like that. Um, and make sure you follow me on Instagram and things too. So LS Lynn Business said, "How do you help kids rid of the fear?" Uh, through education, through handling. Usually when I would do this class, I would actually do it in person, and I would actually bring in preserved specimens as well as newly emerged adults and nymphs, and I would actually have people hold them after I explain, about the life cycle, that they don't bite and things. And I would have people first start out holding the dead ones because they don't move, and then I would have them hold a male while it's making noise, and I hold a female, and then I also have them hold the nymphs because they look a lot different than the adults. The nymphs are brown, they don't have wings, they don't make noise or anything. Um, and so that's how I help people get over their fear. Only way to get over fear is you got to be educated about stuff. A lot of the people's fears are from people not understanding it, and then they're being lied to and told things that are not true. And so they just internalize that, and then that turns into a fear. If you educate people on these things and you show them that this is not a threat, they don't do anything. That's how you can help them overcome those fears. Um, COVID-19 messed up my plans of doing these in-person classes, but I still might do one as they emerge, um, probably on the farm or something. If somebody wants to come out there and get a hands-on learning about cicadas, they can do that. But I had a few people that they were definitely terrified of them, and by the end of the class they were holding them and they were realizing these aren't as bad as I thought they were. And now they're prepared for this year. So I was trying to get people prepared in 2017 for 2021 because I knew they were going to come out in large numbers, and that large number could be very intimidating for somebody that was fearful of them. But yeah, education is going to be key. Is this Linda? Is this okay? I didn't know if this is Linda. I didn't know that was you because you're under your business name. You're welcome. Well, thank you for tuning in, Linda. I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, when you came to the class, um, there were a few people that they had never held one. They were terrified of them, and then when they actually held it and realized, it ain't gonna do nothing. It doesn't have any chewing mouth parts. It doesn't sting. It doesn't do all those lies people told. Then those fears can kind of go away. All right. So, you have any other questions? Because my hour is up. If you guys think of anything, like I said, you can contact me through email. I thank you guys for tuning in this evening. I'll be back soon with another informational video, uh, teaching about some agricultural subject and things like that. So I hope you guys can tune in. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Urban Farm Sister, and hit the bell icon so you're notified when I upload new videos or when I'm going to actually go live. It'll actually send you a notification of, when I have these live discussions and things like that. Linda said, I love all your videos. Thank you. Thank you for watching them. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing and following. I appreciate it. And then BLDG Jones said, love your info. Thanks for sharing. You're welcome. Thank you for tuning in this evening. And share this video with people that you think might benefit from it. And if they have questions about cicadas, definitely send them my information and they can contact me directly and I can help them through their fears. All right, so thank you guys for tuning in. Till next time, talk to you later. Good night.